Discover new music at listenerpoweredkpxp.org.
I had a good life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I will all my belongings to charity. Because where I'm going, none of this shit will matter.
Kid Zelda, tell me who did this.
You did it.
Meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be that. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense, but I'm not for the land of looking for myself. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for the love and I never lived. And the loveliest flowers and berries. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for the love and I never. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for the love and I never lived. Loveliest flowers embarrass me, they make me regret, for I'm not to be. I felt it a shelter to speak to you. The great hope if it fell underneath and no noise and no room. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to have that common. It wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do confess to have that common sense, but I'm not claiming it. I do claim to be the half of that common sense. Wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for love and I never lived. Wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for love and I never lived. Loveliest flowers embarrass me, they make me regret, for I'm not to be. I felt the shelter to speak to you. Great hope fell underneath and no noise and no ruin within. Hope is that they put the feathers to their prison soul. Soon, sing me too soon. Without the words, I'll never stop at all. The spirits of the gathers with the curve for the sword must be the storm, it must be a bash. I love a birth that kept so sweetly warm, but I heard that the chiller's land was strange to see. Yet never for the extremity and never asked to crime. Life is a spell, so it's wizard with everything that conspired to break it and over none for the unable for the love to die. Love is immortality, for we know how high we are still calling for the rise. Statues and touching the sky, so this might not be for the main light. Head for the sight, it's not as small as mine might be for precise these necessities. They'll always show love and like you that for the love of life is a habit. Stopping one heart for the living, for the not living vain. And I can use one thing for the life making real cool, one thing for the fanting of the robin, for the nestling of the egg, and show not live in vain again for the measure of every grief that I need. Probing eyes and wonder if it weighs like mine, but has it either decides if wonder if they bore it long from this just to begin for the day that might be the feelings so old and pain. Whenever the hurts to live and they have to try for the weather, whether that you can choose in between for the good might be the note for some. Gone patient along in the land of renewal their smile for the imitation of life has no little oil. It was wondering with the years of the piling on for the styles of harm for the every year. Lapse cannot give it born for this to be the aching steel. Sick was the love of the end, lighted for the light and pain, the contrast with the love. Grieving many for the toll, for the reason that deeper lies, for the death is only become once. And one nails to the eye for the grief of what you want, for the grief of cold sword called despair, for the banishment of what you befall. Native for the eyes and sight to native air. And although I may not guess the kind correctly, but the piercing comforter also cares. Not for the fashion of the cross, but the wear mostly born from the fascination of pursuing the purpose. Something like my own book is only the heart.
Thing, 2, 3, 4.
Wasn't meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not, for the man ever looking for myself for the love and I never lived. And loveliest flowers embarrass me, they make me regret, for I'm not to be. I felt it a shelter to speak to you. The great hope fell underneath and no noise and no ruin within. Hope is that they put the feathers they're perching in the soul. Soon, sing me to the soon. Without the words, I'll never stop at all. For the sweetest of the gathers of the herd, for the sword must be the storm, for must be a bash. That little birth that kept so many more armed, for the I heard that, for the chillest land where the strangers see. Yet never for the extremity, and never asked a crumb. Life is a spell, so exquisite with everything that conspired to break it, and for the numb, for the unable, for the love to die. Love is immortality, for we know how high. We are still for the calling of the rise, and we are sure choosers for the statues, the touching of the skies. So this might not be for the main might. Head for the sight, smile as small as mine might be for the precisest necessities. They'll always show love and argue that for the love of life is a half. Stopping one heart for the breaking, for the not living vain. And I can use one thing for the life aching, for cool one pain, for the help, for the fainting, for the robbing, for the nestling, for the egg, and should not live in vain again, for the measure of every grief that I met. I meet with the narrow probing eyes and wonder if it weighs like mine, for it has an easier size, and wonder if they bore it long, for next just to begin, for the date of mine, for the feelings of old and pain. Wonder for the hearse to live and they have to try for the weather that you can choose in between, for the it might be a note for some. Gone patient along in the length, the renewal of their smile, for the imitation of light has no little oil. It was wonder with the years of the piling on, for the thousands of harm, for the early hurt. Lapse could not give them a balm, for this to be the aching still. Centuries above the enlightened, for the larger pain, the contrast with the love. Grieve the many for the toll, for the reason of the deeper lies, for the death has only become once. And one nails to the eye, for the grief of what you want, for the grief of cold sword called despair, for the banishment of what you befall. Native of the eyes and sight to native air. And although I may not guess the kind correctly, but the piercing comforter also cares. Not for the fashion of the cross, but the we're mostly born for the fascination of presuming that there always is something like my own, for the book is only the heart. A portrait of every man's page is a post. An ear can break that human heart as quickly as it can spare, for the witch is the ear, for not the heart, for the so dangerously near. Parting all we know is the heaven, all we need is that, for the I can understand the outgoing for other things that push into towards the drawer, for the antique of the fashions and costumes. Grandsire's word, you wrote me of that hope and love, and the heart's endured enough for the interior, for the posterior of the initial creation, and the exponent of breath and wounded. Deer leaps that highest, must go in the fall despise. You were the coming of the fall. Brushed by that summer with a half smile and spurn against the you would fly. You could see in a year for the wind, months in the ball, for the putting in each separate drawers until the time he falls again. Find that ecstasy for the mere sense of life, and living at the joy enough for the die, for the beauty, for they were scarce enough for the adjusting of the tomb, for when you die for the truth was laying in the joining room. Question softly the falling, beauty enough for the falling, for the truth, for the two of one, for the brethren, you can find the kinsmen. And at night for the talking in between the rooms, until they moss and they reach the lips of the covered other name. The sun had just touched that morning, for the morning we were supposed to be for all spring, for God tasted life and behaviors what a man does. He thinks, feels, and believes. Meant to be professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not for the land of looking for myself for the love that I never lived. Love these flowers embarrass me, they make the regret for I'm not to be. I felt it a shelter to speak to you. The great hope fell underneath you, no noise and no ruin within. Hope is I think with the feathers that perching in soul soons. Sing me too soon. Without the words, I'll never stop at all. For the sweetest of the gathers of the herd, for the sword must be the storm, for must be a bash. That little birth that kept so many more armed, for the I heard that, for the chillest land where the strangers see. Yet never for the extremity, and never asked a crumb. Life is a spell, so exquisite with everything that conspired to break it, and for the numb, for the unable, for the love to die. Love is immortality, for we know how high. We are still for the calling of the rise, and we are sure true for the statues and the touching of the skies. So this might not be for the main light. Head for the sight, smile as small as mine might be for the precisest necessities. They'll always show love and argue that for the love of life is a half. Stopping one heart for the breaking, for the not living vain. And I can use one thing for the life aching, for cool one pain, for the help, for the fainting, for the robbing, for the nestling, for the egg, and should not live in vain again, for the measure of every grief that I met. And I meet with the narrow probing eyes and wonder if it weighs like mine, but has an easier size, and wonder if they bore it long, for next just to begin, for the date of mine, for the feelings of old and pain. Wonder for the hearse to live and they have to try for the weather that you can choose in between, for the moon might be a note for some. Gone patient along in the land, the renewal of their smile, for the imitation of light has no little oil. It was wonder with the years of the piling on, for the thousands of harm, for the early hurt. Lapse could not give them a balm, for this to be the aching still. Centuries above the enlightened, with the larger pain, the contrast with the love. Grieve the many for the toll, for the reason the deeper lies, for the death has only become once. One nails to the eye, for the grief of what you want, for the grief of cold sword called despair, for the banishment of what you befall. professed or profound, but I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not for the man ever looking for myself for the love that I never lived. And loved as flowers embarrass me, they make the regret for I'm not to be. I fell to the shelter to speak to you. The great hope fell from underneath and no noise and no room within. Hope is I think with the feathers that perching in the soul. Soons, sing me to the soon. Without the words, I'll never stop at all. For the sweetest of the gathers that they've heard. For the sword must be the storm, for must be at bat. That little bird that kept so swimming warm. But I heard that for the chillest land with a stranger sea. Yet never for the extremity and never asked to cry. Life is a spell, so it's wizard of everything that conspired to break it and overcome. Unable for the love to die. Love is immortality, for we know how high. We are still the calling of the rise, and we are sure to choose for the statues and touching of the skies. And this might not be for the may might. Head for the sight. Smile as small as mine might be for the precisely as necessities. They'll always show love and argue that for the love is life as a have. Stop on one heart for the breaking for the not living vain. I can use one thing for the life making for cool one thing for the help for the thinking of the robbing for the nesting of the egg and shit I live in vain again for the measurement of the grief that I met. I meet with the narrow probing eyes and wonder if it weighs like mine for it has an even besides and wonder if they go along for next just again for the later my feelings are old and pain. And if it hurts to live and they have to try to live together with a picture to choose between. I know for some, gone patient along the lamp and renew their smile. The imitation of light has no little oil. It was wonder with the years of the power of the thousands of harm for the early hurt. Lapse could not give them a ball for this to be the aching still. Centuries above the inlight of the larger pain in contrast with the love. Grieve the many for the toe for the reason your deeper lies for the death has only become once. And one nails to the eye for the grief of what you want for the grief of cold sword called despair for the banishment of what you will fall. Native for the eyes and sight to native air. I may not guess the kind correctly, but the piercing comforter also cares. Not for the fashion of the cross, but the we're mostly born for the fascination of pursuing the always something like my own, for the book is only the heart. The portrait of every man's page is a pulse. An ear can break that human heart as quickly as it can spare, for the which is the ear, for not the heart, for the so dangerously near. Part of all we know is the heaven, all we need is that I can understand the outgoing for other things that push it towards the chore, for the antique of the fashions and costumes. Grandsires war. Roll me of that hope and love, and the heart's endured enough for the interior, for the posterior. Initial creation, and exponent of breath and wounded. Deer leaps that highest, must go when the fog is rising. You were the coming of the fall. Brushed by that sun with a half smile, and spurned against the fly. You could see the year for the winter months in the ball, for the putting in these separate drawers until the time you fall again. Find that ecstasy for the mere sense of life, and living in the joy enough to die for the beauty, for they were scarce enough for the adjusting of the truth. For you die for the truth, it's laying in the joint room. Question softly befalling. Beauty enough for the falling, for the truth, for the two, or one for the brethren, when you can find the kinsman. And at night for the talking of between the rooms, until the moss and the reach the lips of the cup of the name. The sun had just touched that morning, for the morning it was supposed to be for all spring, for thy taste of life and behavior is what a man does. He thinks, feels, or believes. Meant to be professed, but more profound. But I do claim to be the half of that common sense. But I'm not for the man ever looking for myself for the love that I never lived. Lovely as flowers embarrass me, they make the regret for I'm not to be. I fell to the shelter to speak to you. The great hope fell for underneath and no noise and no ruin within. Hope is that thick with the feathers that perching in the soul. Soon, sing me to the soon. Without the words, I'll never stop at all. For the sweetest of the gathers that they've heard. For the sword must be the storm, for must be at bat. That little bird that kept so sweetly warm, for I heard that for the chillest land with a stranger sea. Yet never for the extremity and never asked to run. Life is a spell, so it's wizard of everything that conspired to break it. For the numb, for the unable, for the love to die. Love is immortality, for we know how high. We are still for the calling of the rise, and we are sure truths for the statues and the touching of the skies. So this might not be for the may might. Head for the sight. Smile as small as mine might be for the precisely as necessities. They'll always show love and argue that for the love of life is a habit. Stop in one heart for the breaking, for the not living vain. And I can use one thing for the life aching, or cool one pain for the help, for the venting of the robbing, for the nestling of the egg, and sure not live in vain again for the measure of every grief that I met. I meet with the narrow probing eyes and wonder if it weighs like mine, for it has an easier size, and wonder if they bore it long, for nest just to begin, for the date of mine, for the feeling so old and pain. Wonder for the hurts to live and they have to try for the weather, whether that you could choose it between, for the it might be the note for some. Gone patient along in the length and renewal of their smile, for the imitation of light has no little oil. It was wonder with the years of the piling on, for the thousands of harm, for the early hurt. Lapse could not give them a balm, for this is to be the aching still. Centuries above the inlight for the larger pain, the contrast with the love. Grieve the many for the toe, for the reason and deeper lies, for the death has only become once. And one nails to the eye for the grief of what you want, for the grief of cold sword called despair, for the banishment of what you could fall. Native for the eyes and sight to native air. although I may not guess the kind correctly.